Right. So we discussed about in the last session we discussed about the settings part in context to the settings. We have even discussed about objects and fields, user interfaces, followed by the custom codes. At the same time, even we discussed about data classifications, all that. Right. So data classification, like importing the data, right, uploading the data, right, so based on the importing of the files what we have, right, so we have already imported the files and wherein the classification was done so far, right, so this is where generally the data classifications and all everything will be useful for. At the same time, as I mentioned in the last session about the identity part, so identity uh, which performs authentication authorization, which is called oath. Both right. So the authentication authorization is what something we have discussed even in the last session, right? So both providers at the same time, whatever the login flows you have, right? So when there is any kind of flows we were required to maintain, we need to create the login flow, right? So login flow, for example, um, login flow for billing, okay? For example, okay? Right. So login flow for billing is what something we have taken. So for the billing purpose, we have taken here. And if there is any kind of additional filters to be updated, generally we can add it. But as far as the existing login flow process is concerned, the option we have taken for billing login. For example, a biller wants to bill the products, right? So if a person wants to bill the products, he has to log into the existing application. In this regard, login to the existing application by implementing billing is what something we have to be performed with. So whenever we are selecting the billing part, here we can see there are different additional options do we have. So these are the optional areas because, for example, is it something mentioning only a particular name, right? So name equals to, right? So is it something particularly mentioning the name, right? So that we have to start with. For example, start with so and so. Okay, at the same time, for example, you want to mention about the profile, right? Profile must be equal to. But as far as billing is concerned, there is no specific name as such, right? So whoever is responsible, those people has to be perform that. That is nothing to do with name. Okay, so filter creation or filter creating a specific filters for the particular flow process may not be required all the time based on the filters, right? So we don't may not be required all the filters and all. And whatever the required fields are needed and all, everything here, right? So already name was there. At the same time, profile was there, right? So type created by and created, right? So these are the things which are there already, okay? So name, these are all in the serial process. So hence we don't need it to create any kind of filters and all everything as separate. So whenever we have created this, this is where generally here you can see there is an option for billing is what something we have created. Login flow for billing. Okay. For point number one. Point number two, if you want to add one more flow, right? For example, for inventory, right? So you people wants to check the inventory. Okay. Right. So inventory is what generally the name we have taken, right? So unique name was taken and all. And you can click on the save, right? So almost inventory billing, right? So these are the two login flows which has created over here. Means the kind of transactions you are going to maintain, the kind of processes are we going to maintain. So this is where generally the login flows we have to create. So once the login flows are we creating and all that, so here there are two things. One is about the flow process of the one which you have to be edited with, or else it can be a visual force page, because visual force page part of salesforce, right? So visual force page where if you want to provide any kind of page number regarding that, right? So if you want to search any information relating to that stuff, right? So that information we can upload to the existing application when and wherever it is needed. So if it is required, generally we will be doing it. Otherwise, we don't require to do anything of that sort in context to the login flows and all everything are required. Next, here you can see whatever the login history, whatever we have created so far, you can see all these were there. You can see here, right? So this is the username, and when we have logged in, and from which IP source, because we have to track the IP source also. Source IP address. IP address means when you are visiting any site and all, that site will be visited based on the IP, connected based on the IP number. So here you can see the IP number followed by location from where generally this login history has been accessed. Okay, from where which country am I logging in and all. At the same time, what kind of application type, right? So what kind of application type it is? Login type is a application because we are working on the Salesforce application. And what must be the status? Is the status of what, right? So is it unsuccessful or successful? It is successful. Next, what kind of system am I using, right? So a browser am I using, right? So I'm using Google Chrome, right? So Google Chrome Windows version I'm using a browser, right? So is there any client versions we have? Not applicable. API type, we have not created any API versions and all. So this is how generally you can see whatever the login histories do we have, right? So all the login histories you can see.